Hi guys, I'm going to be reviewing the fourth episode of the Book of Boba Fett, The Gathering Storm. We're now at the halfway point of the show and we're heading towards a showdown with the Pikes. The first four episodes have been a little uneven in terms of tone, pacing and storytelling, but I've enjoyed them overall. The episode opens up with a first meeting between Fett and Fennec. Their relationship over the first four episodes has been really fantastic, so it was great to go back to that first meeting, sort of flashing back to episode 5 of Mando Season 1. So that was really, really cool. Much like last week's episode with the mod gang, I found the modification chop shop a little jarring in execution. I've seen a lot of people online discussing the fact that it doesn't really feel like Star Wars, and to that I say I disagree. I feel like modification has been a strong part of Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back, going back to Luke's hand and even Darth Vader himself. I just feel like the sequence overall, in terms of shot composition, the scripting, and how long the sequence takes overall, doesn't really come together in the final product in the way that clicks with us as the audience. Reclaiming Fett's gunship, destroying the Nikto Sun Riders, and returning to the Sarlacc Pit was a mixed bag of great moments, questionable logic, and uneven tone. It was really cool to delve back into Jabba's palace, and sections of the palace really felt like they were lifted directly out of the Battlefront games, which I absolutely loved. The kitchen scene was a little goofy in execution. It felt a little slapstick in Saturday morning cartoons, but I can forgive that for how amazing the puppetry was with the robots, especially the LEP service droid. I really feel like, especially in Mando and Boba Fett, the puppetry work that's on display with different creatures like Grogu or the Banthas and things like that have really elevated the shows and the quality of shows, and really showed off um, the strong technical side backing these shows. So it was a real treat to watch the puppets at work in those scenes. So that sort of pulled me back in a little bit more. The escape from Jabba's palace was fine. It really gave Ming-Na Wen an awesome chance to show off her skill and prowess as an action star. I would have liked to see Fett take a little bit more of an active role in the escape. However, overall it was a pretty good scene. We then have Fett mowing down the Nikto Sun Riders, and as cool as this sequence was, especially with the amazing music by Joe Shirley, I really felt that this clashed from the scenes previous in the kitchen, where here we've got a really calculating and cold Fett, which really sort of embodied the Fett of old, the Fett that we knew, with the new character that we're sort of being reintroduced to. And I felt like the tonal shift was a little off, but it was a cool scene. While I really enjoyed the Sarlacc sequence, I really feel like it could have benefited from a few small tweaks that would have tightened up the storytelling of the sequence. We as the audience knew that Fett's armor wasn't going to be in the pit, so the whole sequence felt a little unnecessary, and we needed some plausibility as to why Fett still considered that his armor might be there, given that he came out of the Sarlacc Pit with it on. I think it would have benefited greatly from just a line of dialogue or two from Fett explaining that it was all a blur as he came out of the Sarlacc Pit, that he was left with acid burns and lack of oxygen, stuck under the Tatooine suns and then knocked unconscious by Jawas. Just give us a possible reason as to why he thinks that the armor would still be in the Sarlacc Pit. Despite that, it was a really cool sequence. I would have loved to have seen Fett take a more active role in the escape once the Sarlacc had actually taken hold of the gunship, potentially telling Fennec to take over the flight controls while he's the one that lets go of the seismic charge, or at least direct her as to where the button was, so that he was playing a more active role, because he was very passive in the scene, sort of just holding the flight controls. And it was great to see Fennec take control and release the seismic charge. I just feel like, given that it is the Boba Fett show, it would have been great to have seen him take that lead in that moment. But I mean, who can complain about a seismic charge being dropped into the Sarlacc Pit? It was an absolutely amazing scene, and I could sort of overlook the unevenness of the sequence, just due to that amazing sound effect. We're then taken back to the present, and we're reintroduced to Carsanton, who's busy getting drunk at the sanctuary. I don't think we've ever seen a drunk Wookiee before, but it was a sight to behold, and I really loved the whole sequence with him and the Trandoshans. Jennifer Beal as Garsa Whip really gave an outstanding monologue detailing Carsanton's backstory as a fearsome and revered gladiator. I felt that she really carried that scene, and I feel like she's a really strong character in this show overall, a really interesting character, a character that I want to know more about, what role she's playing in this in Mos Espa overall. But back to like Carsanton, a really cool moment for him. It makes me wonder if this scene is actually foreshadowing, and if potentially if Bosk is reintroduced. It would be really cool to see Bosk and Carsanton play off each other, and if there's conflict that arises because of that interaction. We don't know if Bosk is going to show up. It would be cool if he does. Trandoshans do seem to be a big part of this series so far. I have a feeling he won't, but yeah, I'm just curious as to whether that was foreshadowing or not as to future tensions. We finally get that scene from the trailers with the meeting of the crime families of Mos Espa, and I thought it was an overall a really good sequence. I was really interested to see how Fett was going to convince the other families to rally against the Pikes, and I was also really glad that he was called out as to why they should join him, because the show has given us very little to go on in terms of leverage that Fett has to command the position that he holds. The answer of partnership being more beneficial than being adversaries was an okay one. I would have preferred something with a little bit more depth and nuance. But overall, I thought it was a really engrossing scene, so much so that I completely didn't realize that they were dining over the Rancor pit. And it was a great little reveal when his claws came up through the grate. I thought that was a great moment. Fett and the Rancor were my favorite parts of episode 3. So I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I really do hope we get to see the scenes of Fett riding a Rancor somewhere. I think that's going to be absolutely amazing if they can pull that off. With the flashbacks seemingly over, we've got 3 episodes left to drive the present story forward. I don't think we'll have any more flashbacks, given that we've been told that Fett is fully healed, so it seems like that device has been wrapped up and we're just going to be focusing purely on the present now. So that'll be interesting to see. I don't think we need flashback scenes of how Fett found out that Cobb Vanth had his armor or anything like that. I think those scenes wouldn't be as interesting as, say, like an escape scene from rescuing the Fett's gunship or anything like that. So I think the flashbacks will be wrapped up completely. I can't wait to see how the conflict between the House of Fett and the Pikes escalates. I really want to see Fett take charge and be more proactive and not reactive. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 3 episodes. And I really hope it can bring it home with a really strong finish. Bryce Dallas Howard is set to direct episode 5, with Dave Filoni writing and directing episode 6. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he introduces another fan favourite character, potentially Cad Bane, or if he goes completely the opposite direction and just purely focuses on telling the story of the penultimate episode. So it'll be interesting to see introducing a new character in an episode like the second last episode of the show might distract from the main story. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But then we've also got Robert Rodriguez closing out the finale with episode 7. Anyway, that's it from me, guys. Leave a comment on your thoughts on episode 4 and what you think is going to happen over the next 3 episodes, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.